The newest wave of Kamigawa Neon Dynasty spoilers have just been released. We have strange ninjas, we have horrific uncommons, and we also have an update about yesterday's Hatsune Miku situation.
Magic. I am a wizard! History. I'm an old wizard! The magic historian. My bones hurt.
Greetings! Owners of fine luxury cardboard rectangles, my friends, I hope the day finds you well because we have gathered to talk about some Kamigawa Neon Dynasty goodness. There are particularly some green spoiler cards today that I am massively excited about. But before we dive into the spoilers, just want to give you a little update to yesterday's news where we talked about Hatsune Miku. So yesterday there was an announcement on the French Twitter saying something was going to happen today. Well, it did indeed happen. A Kamigawa Hatsune Miku song has been released on YouTube. It specifically shows aspects of the world of Kamigawa as this character flies around singing, flinging magic cards about. It is a pretty big spectacle, and I imagine it cost Wizards of the Coast a fair bit of money. So if that's something you're interested in, you can check it out. Now, let us dive into the spoilers. We're going to start out with one of the green cards that I'm super stoked about, a strange ninja indeed. You are looking at the Spring Leaf Avenger, and I adore this card. It is crazy good to me. 2 green and 3 for a 6/5 insect ninja. It's got ninjutsu, 1 green and 3, and whenever Springleaf Avenger deals combat damage to a player, return target permanent card from your graveyard to your hand. So every time this connects with your opponent, you get a regrowth effect on any permanent in your graveyard. Sure, you're not going to be able to get back sorceries and instants, but big deal, who cares? Most of my decks when I'm playing green are permanents, and I just want to send in waves of dudes. So all of a sudden, these early creatures that I've played that they don't really want to block, let's say you put out that little 1/1 death touch and you're swinging in with it. They don't want to block it. They're just taking that 1 every turn. Now all of a sudden, they have to go, oh wait, if I don't block that 1/1, you can just ninjutsu out this Springleaf Avengers and get other permanents back from your graveyard. Like when I started the game, we had Crawworm, 2 green and 4 for a 6/4 with no abilities. This costs 1 mana less, has 1 more toughness, has ninjutsu, and brings stuff back from your graveyard. This is crazy to me, and it is a strange ninja to me because the idea of a ninja that's based around regrowth, bringing things back, is a strange idea, especially green ninjas, right? We really didn't get to play around with the green ninjutsu concept. Most of the time, the ninjas have been limited to black and blue in Magic the Gathering, right? This is a new sort of styling, having them in green and having this nature concept in ninjas, amazing to me, right? When I first looked at it, I actually wrote it off as just another snake. I'm like, okay, we got another one of the Orochi, and then I went, wait a minute, this is Insect Ninja. And then I looked closer at the artwork, and I noticed that this ninja who's leaping in the air has these sort of like praying mantis insectile legs, and then this sort of like bulbous part of their body coming out of the back. I'm not really familiar with insect terminology for their body parts, but either way, you can see that there are different insect aspects. As well, the ninja kind of ties in flower concepts too when you look at the garments, and you've got what looks almost like flowing rose petals. Like this is a ninja that probably looks amazing leaping through the air. And I also like the throwing stars that look like they're made out of a darkened jade that has been shaved at the edges. I just love this entire bit of artwork, the concept behind this card, and the power of it overall. Like, I understand that ultimately this is probably not going to be a big card in Standard. This isn't a card that's going to make huge splashes in super competitive formats. But for people like me who can appreciate cards that may not be the highest level on the power sphere but still bring a lot to the table, I guarantee you I will be running a playset of this card in my green tower. It is guaranteed. Now, let's move on to one of the horrific uncommons we're going to talk about. This is Dockside Chef. Now, I want to specify something. When I say horrific uncommons, I don't mean that they are terrible cards. Each one is horrific for a different reason. So, Dockside Chef is the first one we're going to look at. That is 1 black for a 1/2 enchantment creature human citizen. And it has the ability, pay 1 black and 1, sacrifice an artifact or creature, draw a card. The flavor text says, the squirming is how you know it's fresh. This card is horrific to me. This is an everyday citizen of Kamigawa who is definitely involved in some dark dealings, right? This is not a normal person. This is an enchantment creature that might look like a regular person, but is clearly linked to the spirit world as well. So what exactly are they putting into this? Like, what are they pulling out of the docks there, right? You've got fish, you've got other kind of aquatic life, but, you know, are there some bodies showing up at the side of the water there? Is he making bodies? The whole squirming fresh part of it? Like, you literally sacrifice creatures with this card, and he makes meals. That is horrifying. The artwork is absolutely awesome. This guy's got a big old bowl of ramen or whatever it is. Honestly, I'm not like super familiar with different kind of hot pot meals and things like that, big heated bowls. All right, I've not really experienced that kind of food because I'm super picky, so I don't know exactly what he's holding out, but you've got these little ethereal spectral hands all with chopsticks that are either adding elements to the dish or they're lifting them up there like they're going to forcefully feed them to you. And how does the drawing a card aspect come into it? Does this guy take somebody, chop them up, and then when you feast upon them, you gain their knowledge to a degree? Like, this is a horrific and very cool concept, right? Next card we're going to talk about is Mind Link Mech, another amazing concept from the abilities of the card. Admittedly, I'm not a huge mech guy, but I like the way this card works. 1 blue and 2 for a 4/3 vehicle that has flying. Whenever Mind Link Mech becomes crewed for the first time each turn until end of turn, Mind Link Mech becomes a copy of target non-legendary creature that crewed it this turn, except it's a 1/1. It's a vehicle artifact. I should say not it's a 1/1. It's a 4/3. It's a vehicle artifact in addition to its other types, and it has flying. Sorry for messing you up there. I'm so used to all these 1/1 pilot tokens that are being generated that my brain auto-inserted that because the wording on this card is really weird and clunky, and it kind of throws me for a loop. But ultimately how it works is when you crew this card, you basically choose a creature that crewed it, and the Mind Link Mech will become a copy of that creature, but keep its stats of 4/3 and flying. So the idea is this is a mech that can reconfigure itself to completely emulate whoever it is that it's linked with. And you can see that in the artwork. I like this as a concept because that is a very, very powerful device. Something that can instantly attune itself to any creature from across the multiverse by linking with it and then actually emulate its abilities. That is a fantastic concept and ultimately feels like a pretty powerful effect. There are a lot of creatures in Magic that are just little 1/1 donks, but have incredibly strong abilities. Slap them onto a 4/3 flying, and all of a sudden things are going to get crazy. Like, there's this old card called Cephalid Constable. It's 3 mana for a 1/1, and whenever it hits your opponent, it bounces X cards where X is the amount of damage that it did back from play to their hand, right? So if you did that with this mech, all of a sudden, now you have a 4/3 flying version of instead. You swing in with you bounce for a card. Like, there's so much that you can do with this mech. It is very, very funky. Next up, we have another horrific uncommon. This one is Dragon Spark Reactor. 1 red and 1 for an artifact that says, whenever Dragon Spark Reactor or another artifact enters the battlefield under your control, put a charge counter on Dragon Spark Reactor. 4 mana, sacrifice Dragon Spark Reactor. It deals damage equal to the number of charge counters on it to target player, and that much damage to up to 1 target creature. So this is a very interesting artifact, right? Obviously, red is very good at dealing damage specifically to targets, so that's tied into it. It ties into the artifact-heavy concept of Kamigawa, right? We saw that recent Oni Anvil, where every time an artifact goes, you get to make a 1/1 artifact token. So it would go really well with this reactor as well. You just keep feeding these artifacts into the graveyard to make new artifacts. Each time a new one shows up, the Dragon Spark reactor grows, and when the reactor goes, when you sack it, you'll also get a token off the anvil. Like, it doesn't feel too shabby. For me, the horrific nature of this card comes from the concept behind it, right? This is a reactor meant to generate, I assume, electricity, some sort of power. And it is made off of essentially dragon spirits, right? So you've got this idea where you take a dragon spirit, and I assume against its will, turn it into a reactor. And then you overload it with energy, and then ultimately cause it to disrupt and explode outwards, just leveling everything around it. So that's horrific on multiple levels. It's horrific for the dragon spirit involved. It's horrific for any of the denizens of the city who live anywhere near where this reactor is. It's kind of crazy. It has this could easily be a red-black card, honestly, when you boil down the concept underneath it. Now, let us move on to another strange ninja. This one is Katos the Silent Spider. So, when she enters the battlefield, you exile target card other than a basic land card from an opponent's graveyard. Then you search their graveyard, hand, and library for every copy of that card and exile those as well. And then for as long as you have her out, you can play one of those spells, and you can do it as though your mana were mana of any color when you go to cast it. And this is tacked onto a 4/4 body for 1 black, 1 blue, and 3. So this is strange. I mean, first of all, this is strange because this is a ninja without ninjutsu. There are actually only 3 ninjas in the entirety of Magic the Gathering's history that do not have ninjutsu. This one and the 2 ninjas that were created in the Modern Horizons series. So it is definitely very odd to have a ninja that literally doesn't have any reason to be a ninja other than its flavor concept, right? The idea is basically you pop her out, she's able to go ahead and slam your opponent, take like their best resources away from them, and then you can use those resources yourself, right? And obviously, if you use this card over and over and over, you're slowly but surely going to strip away a ton of resources from your opponent's deck. Sure, you won't be able to cast all the individual spells. You only get to cast 1 copy out of the 4, but you will get to sample each of their spells that way, right? It's an interesting concept where it's like the idea is somebody who's like breaking in, I guess, stealing crucial information, erasing all traces of it, and taking it off to use it for their own advantage, right? I mean, we've got the Tom Cruise style Mission Impossible coming down from the ceiling style ninja action. This is all right. I mean, I guess the reason they gave it no ninjutsu is because it would probably be too powerful if it did have ninjutsu. But either way, a ninja without ninjutsu is strange to me. After that, we've got another horrific uncommon. This one is Containment Construct. Now, this one isn't horrific because of a flavor reason. This one is horrific because of a gameplay reason. So, 2 mana gets you a 2/1 Artifact Construct creature. Whenever you discard a card, you may exile that card from your graveyard. If you do, you may play that card this turn. So the idea behind this is essentially, this is a madness bot. You have this out, and all of your cards function incredibly similar to the mechanic Madness. If you're not familiar with Madness, Madness is literally when you go to discard a card with Madness, you can pay its Madness cost, and you get to cast it. Sometimes it has the same casting cost, sometimes it has a lower casting cost, some kind of alternate casting cost, but regardless, the point is, behind Madness, you discard the card and you get to cast it. So you can discard it to abilities that give you a bonus for discarding, and then after discarding, you can go ahead and play the spell. But until now, that ability was purely limited to cards that specifically had Madness. This is a blanket Madness style enabler that works in any deck because it's colorless. Like, to me, this is absolutely amazing. It's horrific in terms of how easy it gives everybody access to the Madness mechanic. Now, let us talk about another delightful green card that I am super stoked about. Shigeki, the Jukai Visionary. 1 green and 1 gets you a 1/3 legendary enchantment creature snake druid. That is one big mouthful of a type line. 1 green and 1 and return Shigeki to its owner's hand. You reveal the top 4 cards of your library. You may put a land card from among them on the battlefield tapped. put the rest of the cards into your graveyard, and then it's got channel of 2 green and double X. Discard Shigeki, return X target non-legendary cards from your graveyard to your hand. So this functions for a couple of different purposes. One is to dig lands out of your deck and get them onto the board, and the other is to return cards to your hand. I really enjoy the fact that as a legendary creature, if you get additional copies of him, you can just go, oh, I'm just going to channel pitch these to get the cards back from my graveyard. No big deal, right? I mean, there's a reason that they put the concept you can't get legendary cards back with this, because otherwise you could literally just chain Shigekis together and be like, pitch one, get another one back. Pitch one, get another one back. But I love the way his first ability ties into his second, right? It does give you lands, which is going to give you more mana to do the double X, but at the same time, on top of putting a land into play for you, if there's one on the top 4, the other cards go into your graveyard and they serve as targets for the channel ability. So this is one of those cards that I feel like on the surface, you may look at it and go, this doesn't seem that great, but over time, the card advantage it gives you is so strong that you pretty much can't lose because you just come out so far ahead. It gives you long game staying power, which I definitely appreciate. Now that wraps up all the spoilers I have for you, my friends. Link on the screen to the newest Brother War lore video, best story in all of Magic the Gathering. Check it out if you're interested. And I will also have a link to every single Kamigawa spoiler video I have done. Check them out. Let's spend some more time together.